Welcome to Business Prowess with Rafael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Rafael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
And welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller. Sifu Rafael Gomez is out of town today, so it's just going to be me hosting. And we have the lovely Kelly Kaye Walker with us. And she not only talks about ADHD, but other amazing things as well as a coach. And of course, I own the Red Carpet Connection. And so I'm a Chief Strategic Influence Officer. So I talk about publicity and neuroscience as a master neuroscientist. And we are going to today talk about coming from rock bottom to rising star as part of what we're going to be discussing. So good morning, Kelly. Let's hear all about you.
Good morning, Dr. Andrea. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on here. And ADHD is certainly a topic that's quite talked about. I have that diagnosis as well. And I think
Awesome.
I manage it well, but I'm always open to hear what other people are doing and the other challenges and other research, because that's not something I keep up on myself. So please.
Oh, well, good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got diagnosed I think it was about 9 years ago. And I tried the medications and hated the way it made me feel. My heart was racing constantly.
Ooh.
I thought I'd probably have a heart attack if I stayed on it. So I am also unmedicated, untreated, and have learned ways to I feel like part of it is a superpower. And part of it is a thing that you have to learn how to work around, right?
Yeah.
As are many things in life.
Yeah, very many things in life. It, for people who don't know what it is, could you please do some explaining on it? Talk
Yes.
about what it does, how we manage it, how we don't manage it, and the definitions?
Absolutely. So ADHD, it means attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. And I like to describe it as a squirrel rodeo going on in your brain, where you've just got a million things going on at once, 8 million ideas at the same time, and distractions and, shiny object syndrome. Those are the things people like to use to describe it. Really, it is an inability to sit down and focus for very long on something that you're not super confident in or excited about. If you're excited about something with ADHD, the world could burn down around you and you wouldn't notice because you are so intently focused on the thing you're excited about. But the flip side of that is, if it's not something you're super excited about, it is literally the hardest thing in the world to stay focused on it.
So very true.
It is a lovely dichotomy. And everybody kind of has their own cocktail of ADHD symptoms, because there's like probably 30 different things it could come with, and everybody has their own custom combination of things. And so, like, for me, I have probably decision paralysis, I feel, is my worst one, deciding on something.
So decision paralysis. So
Yeah.
what I understand is, sometimes people can't make a decision because they're overthinking or overcomplicating things. And it doesn't mean that they're not educated or they're not knowledgeable. It's almost like there's this fine line or hairline of whether this or that will happen.
Yeah.
And they're concerned about what the ramifications are of that decision. And so then
Absolutely.
they make no decision. Now,
Right.
for some reason, that's not been a challenge. I'm very good about making decisions, and
That's
I think
great.
that's because how I grew up. That I had to make decisions quickly. I worked in law enforcement. I worked as a 911 dispatcher. I worked in a jail as a corrections officer as well, and I
Wow.
had to make decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
You make as educated as you can, and you go. And so that is, and I think that comes up from growing up. So I grew up in a beautiful home, a lovely home, lovely family, and at the same time, it could be very tumultuous on like that, and you never knew what was going to happen.
Yes.
And so. And that was just how my dad responded to things. His decision to respond didn't always go the direction of positivity and ease. So you had to respond quickly as a child, even as little as 3. I remember
Yeah.
having to make decisions quickly, and that has led to, I think, my ability now to make educated decisions fast. And so tell us more about the paralysis of making a decision and how that has affected you, so other people might see that in themselves or someone that they work with or love.
Yeah. I think the way it affects me the most is with clutter.
Mm,
Decluttering is nearly impossible if you have the decision paralysis, because it's not safe to get rid of something, because of course if you get rid of it you're going to need it a week later.
oh, absolutely.
And I've got lots of proof of that, because it happens every time I get rid of something, I end up needing it later. So then it becomes an exercise in faith that you'll be able to find everything that you own, because when you have clutter you can't find anything. So it's like you don't even have it. You have it, but you can't find it. So for me, that's of it with speech topics. Like, they have so many speeches they could give, or so many stories they could tell, that they get to the point where they're afraid to choose the wrong one, so they choose nothing, and then they end up never becoming speakers.
Absolutely.
So that's
Uh,
one of the things I like to work on. Just pick something and go, because nothing's permanent in the speaking world. You can
I do
change your
find
speech.
I do get, I'm like, just make a decision. Like there is no, I mean, often I guess what I see is there is no wrong decision. There's only a decision. And
Exactly.
regardless, sure, one could have been better than the other, but there's always going to be pros and cons of everything. And what I've, if we look at our lifetime of every time that we've made a decision, whether we thought it was good or bad, we resolved it and we figured it out and things changed. And
Yeah.
and so that's what I try to encourage people, is that right or wrong, it's not there's not a wrong, there's a right or a right.
Yeah. That's a
And no decision is a decision. Yeah, and action
really
is a
good way to
decision.
look at it.
Yeah, and inaction is definitely a decision that people make. Just, and by the way, I always want to remind people, the way I'm looking down often or looking over here, and it's because I utilize the ADHD as a tool, because I'm usually writing comments or I'm posting so that this can read over to the other side. So even if Sifu's here, I'm the one that does that. And so
Uh,
when you work in different jobs where you're trying to make different things happen,
yeah.
you have to be able to talk and think and function and write things and put things up online and make
Yes.
sure that they post correctly. And I do all of the things. So I'm got all my balls in the air here. So that is what we're doing right now.
And see, that's an ADHD superpower you're exhibiting right there.
Always.
'Cause you can do all of that and do it smoothly and very functionally. And people without ADHD have a really hard time doing things like that. So
Absolutely. It
there you
can
go, you're proving it.
definitely be a positive
Ugh,
and a negative. It just depends on the day. Let's talk a little
I
bit
think
more about,
my connection's freezing a little bit.
it might be both of us. I know it's an
Oh,
overcast day today, so I'm trying
oh,
to close out any other thing that's open in my computer.
gotcha.
So we just keep talking as if, and it'll
Yeah.
catch up and work with us and close down anything else that you might have
We'll work
working
it
on
out.
you, and it'll all work out. That's kind of what we've learned,
All right.
and things happen like that, So
Right.
um, and of course, that's a disruptor and a distraction as well. So
Sure.
we talked about people with ADHD and the shiny objects over here and shiny objects over there. So what are some tools and tips that you have learned that really help you utilize the ability to put blinders on to the things that distract you?
Oh, sorry. It cut out again. I didn't hear anything you just said.
To the things that distract you.
Oh, gosh. My favorite thing for distractions is this. I keep a spinner paper in front of me under my laptop
Spinner
so I
paper. What
can
is a spinner paper?
a spinner paper is okay, so I heard somebody call this a spinner once and I thought it was genius. A
Mhm.
spinner is an idea that comes to you that distracts you from what you're doing.
Mm.
Because it's those like little windmill spinners in your garden that
Yeah,
scare off the birds. We
sure.
get those little spinners in our heads, and while we're trying to do something, a spinner pops up, and then we lose focus. And sometimes we never get back to the thing we were doing, which was important, because we get led off the path by the spinner. So I keep a piece of paper in front of me, and when I get a spinner, I think, oh, I've got to deal with that. No, I don't. I'm busy right now. I'm going to write it down. And then I come back to my spinner list when I've got time and take care of the spinners. But just taking that out and putting it on paper, it's amazing the power that has on the ADHD brain. It just frees up all your bandwidth again back to what you were doing, because you're not worried you're going to forget this other thing that could really be important, or it could just be something silly, or it could be not related at all to what you're doing, but it has to get done later. But that's probably my favorite distraction tool is a spinner paper.
Oh, so I wasn't aware of a spinner paper. However,
Yeah.
I have a similar tool that I use on my
Yeah.
phone, and that's the notes section. So
Oh,
when
yes.
I just open notes, and
Mhm.
I have things. Now I will admit I probably have 1,000 different categories in here. However, I do have them listed by name, and then so like this is future ideas. One is for NLP, that's my neuroscience stuff, neuro linguistic programming. I have another
Right.
area for frequencies. I have another area for comedy, things that I want to remember. And so I have these different future ideas, book
Yeah.
ideas, article ideas. And so
Love
when
it.
I see them or want them, whether it's a link or somebody else is doing something that would help me remember it,
Yeah.
or and so I might post it under there, and then I write a comment about it, and so then it is in a file for
Yeah.
things later. So if all of a sudden somebody said, we're doing a book project and we need a book idea, now chances are I'll come up with something in the moment and not even
Yeah.
need to look at that list, because
Right.
I constantly have things spinning in my head. Uh,
Mhm.
However, if I wanted to, I could go to that list and I might have things I've even already researched because uh, they were on my mind, or things that I'm interested about. So
That's awesome.
certainly a way to do that. Um, so I'm curious, Kelly, are you also a high knowledge person? Like, do you want to know a lot about a lot of things?
Yes, I study everything, which is one of my ADHD distractions. I'll be looking I'll be like looking at something or doing something, and I'll hear or see something interesting, and
Mhm.
then I'll go look it up, and then I go down a rabbit hole
So I'm laughing because
of
as
learning.
a
I
child,
study everything, I research everything. Uh, all of my friends and family say I should have been a private detective. Uh, I love not only researching things, but like looking up things, finding things, secret knowledge, things like that. I love it so much. So yes,
oh,
definitely
well,
obsessed with that kind of thing.
we're going to get along swimmingly, because
Yeah.
I did mention I have the background in law enforcement, and I taught in several different law enforcement classes, was trained in forensic profiling. And so I
Oh,
am a high knowledge person. So
yeah.
I, it's interesting because I know some of my family gets frustrated and they feel like I'm on my phone all the time, and they
Yeah.
don't realize that part of me being on my phone is not taking away from them, it's adding to the conversation. So when I hear something, I look it up because I want to know what it is, or they've referenced something and I want to know more details about that. So let me just give a random example. Uh, when I heard that there was we had a 100-year flood twice in 2007. So I'm very aware of flooding where you lose, property and,
Yeah.
we didn't lose life, but the potential of losing life in our city. And and it was quite devastating. I actually definitely had PTSD after a while, after it, and was able to resolve that because every time it rained, I would go into panic mode that we were going to lose
Oh,
more property and all of my things and all of my book collection and all of that. And so when I heard that, every time I hear that there's going to be a flood somewhere or that there has been a flood, I researched that just because I just have a knowledge and information I feel like I should pass on. And I'm heightenedly aware of what a flood can do for people. So when I
yeah.
heard that Texas was flooding and with the kids missing from that camp, I just researched, like what had happened, where it was. So somebody might be talking about, oh, flooding in Texas, and I am already researching like what's happening, what's the rescue things that are in place, I went back and found the history of like when it flooded before and how bad it flooded before and what hadn't happened. So I knew all this background information. So I really probably could have done news articles about it because I think I knew more than the news was sharing, because people would mention it and I'm like, oh, did you know like 26 years ago? I don't remember the years now. So, but at the moment I knew so many years ago, they had a flood like this before and this many people were lost, and they actually have talked about doing warning systems, and then they chose not to spend the money for that, and different things. And like the camp itself had looked at, and yet they rebuilt on the
Wow.
same thing, so there's a knowledge piece that comes up in when you're thinking and learning and understanding things. So anyhow, that can be very distracting, but it helps me function in the world.
Sorry, we cut out again.
Yeah. So when it happens, just keep talking as if it didn't. And
Okay, great.
yeah. So just whatever you didn't hear, just assume, make the assumption, and go ahead and go with it, because you don't have to
Yeah.
hear that's part of the decision thing. So we'll use it. I know for you're like,
I love that.
that's disruptive, but part of it is just what it is. And
Okay.
then share what you want to share, and we'll be
I
fine.
love that.
We
All
can't
right.
control satellites and weirdness
Right.
that happen in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
in hearing that, what jumped up in your head?
I want to know what's a 100-year flood.
Oh, it's so they have different measurements of how often floods happen. And so they have most cities that have had floods, that have flooding, have what
Yeah.
they consider a 100-year flood and a 500-year flood. So this will happen, or they expect the depth of water to come to a certain level within a 100-year marker. And it usually happens about every 100 years. So that means
Gotcha.
so if you find out what your flood levels are around your area, that means it's always a possibility. But if you live in you have to think about where you live. Like everybody who lives in Utah, that the whole area is a flood area. Now it's more like a 1,000,000-year flood, but when you think about it, they're between two mountains. Anytime you're in a valley, I live in Blanchard Valley, so we're in a valley. If there's
Oh,
a city up the way, is called Black Swamp. Swamp for a reason. It's because it's swampy land, because it held water. So you need to be aware
oh,
of those things. But of course, people have changed. They move earth, they build houses, they move
yeah.
subdivisions, and it changes the floodplains. So that does affect when a 100-year flood may or may not happen. So that's
Wow.
what that is. Yeah.
That's
So
fascinating.
yeah, it's a little bit of a little side information
Yeah.
talking about ADHD, but I preface that to say that when I'm in a conversation, I'm looking up research. And it's funny because my husband is also high knowledge and he relies on me to know things. So if my phone is dead or if I'm around, one of my daughters is opposed to me being on my phone because she feels like I'm taking away from family. So I put my phone down, and then often I won't bring it in, and then I'll need information and then I can't look it up.
Yes, and that is frustrating. Oh my gosh. I'm the same way, and my husband, same with me. He'll ask me a question, assume I know everything, and then if I don't, I get out my phone and look it up, and he expects me to be the one to get out and look it up because I am the same way.
Mhm.
Research all the time.
And of
That's
course, I don't know if that is, now I'm curious. I don't know if that's an ADHD
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
thing
know.
or we're just two rare birds that, let's see if other people know. We'll put it up here as on the post for comments. You
Yes.
know, how do other people respond with ADHD and knowledge seeking?
Yes. I love that. Getting out the phone and being on the phone while you're in a conversation, that that feels also very ADHD to me because, like, for instance, when I'm in a meeting or go to church or, any kind of thing where I'm just sitting in an audience passively, I cannot sit and just look at a speaker and listen to them for more than about 5 minutes. So I wonder if it's kind of related to that. We've got to have something to do with our hands to kind of keep ourselves busy so that we can focus on what's being said. Because I have much better memory retention if I have, say, a game on my phone or a coloring book. I used to do coloring books to just kind of channel my extra ADHD energy so I could listen to things.
There's certainly, I have seen different research on that before. So I used to teach college, and I had a kid in my class who I had a joke. I named him my fun guy, and not like, and because he was my fun, FUN,
Right.
GUY, fun guy. But then I just
Yeah.
made it like a joke, like he's our magic mushroom in the class. He's our fun
Um,
guy, fun
yeah.
guy. And I would give him tasks to do in the class because otherwise he was in movement all the time too. So he was physically ADHD. I am
Yeah.
not physically ADHD. I am
Mhm.
mentally ADHD. So
Yeah.
I actually am the opposite. I don't move. So I get where I almost get like muscle paralysis because I'm so concentrated and
Yeah.
focused on my
Me too.
computer like this or on my
Same.
phone like this that I don't move for hours. So I have
Same.
to literally move. So people who are physically
Mhm.
hyperactive in their physicality. By the way, do you remember? I think there's like 6 or 7 different levels of ADHD. Do you recall what they are?
No. I
Yeah,
could look it up.
yeah. And you're going to now. I know you are. And and so within those different levels, people respond or act in different ways. But at the time, I knew I had this student who needed to physically move, and he would shake his knee so much that
Oh, yeah.
so it'd be like
Yeah.
like that. And those of you who are just listening and not looking, I was shaking my computer.
Yes.
And then the person sitting with him was like ready to strangle him. So we had the
Oh,
long,
yeah.
the 4-foot tables. I had him sit at a table by himself in the back because he was physically distracting, and
Yeah.
his table couldn't touch the other person's table. Otherwise, they couldn't write or take notes because they were distracted. And
Yeah.
I knew how long it would take him to be distracted. So what I did is I looked up some different research, and I would have him put an earpiece in with
Yeah.
whatever kind of music that he listened to.
Oh, yeah.
He kind of liked more of a heavy metal band. So I would ask him to find one with not as many lyrics so he wasn't motivated to sing.
Yeah.
But he would have that in one ear, and that would help him keep focused. And I had a thing, we only had him in class twice a week. And about halfway during the class, he knew that I would point at him and point at the clock. And that means he should take his chair and go up and take the clock off the wall and fix it because it would get about a minute off. And that having him do that task physically gave him something to do
Yes.
that he could then pay attention in the class. And he was like a 27-year-old man,
Yeah.
but I had to come up with tools to getting to pay attention.
You know what? That's amazing. He's really lucky that he had a teacher like that, because most people have no idea how to deal with us, especially the physical kind. The physical kind of ADHD can be so triggering to other people, especially in organized settings like a classroom. Oh, I feel like there should be seriously intensive training on how to deal with ADHD people in the world. It would be really helpful.
Well, I've always thought about that because, I think about students and, how we're in a regular traditional school need to sit still in our seat and how
Yeah.
difficult that is. I know my daughter is a 7th grade teacher, and I think some of her kids have fidget toys,
Oh,
tools,
yeah.
to keep them busy. I also know
Yeah.
adults that do that. They have everything from squeeze balls to these little fidget spinners.
Yeah.
To me, I find them annoying.
Yeah, I do too.
And so that's it's so one person,
I
we might
know.
have the same diagnoses, so to speak,
Yeah.
but one tool doesn't help the other.
Yeah. There's so many flavors of ADHD. That's funny.
Yeah. So tell me more about, because we have a lot of speakers and people who are
Yeah.
speaking. So tell me about specifically what you're doing as a speaker coach to help them with this,
Yeah.
challenges that they have.
Yes. So the main challenge I'm finding for me as a speaker and other speakers are, the being able to sit down and write a speech can be really challenging. And then memorization. A lot of people with ADHD just cannot abide memorizing. They can't do it at all. And then rejection sensitivity dysphoria comes into play a lot too, because like if one person in the audience is frowning, then you were a complete failure and the worst speaker in the world, right? So those are the three I have the most clients that struggle with. So sitting down and writing a speech, set a timer to work on your speech, 5 minutes a day even. People think that they've got to sit down and do this whole big speech and it's going to take them 6 hours and they'd rather die. But I am a big fan of time chunking. So set aside like an hour a day where you're going to work on specific things, and your speech is one of them, and you set a timer for the speech, and then you set a timer for the other thing and the other thing, so that you're constantly changing tasks within your assigned work hours, so you don't get bored with the thing that you're doing. So timers are my friend. I use my timer probably every single day. And then memorizing. I do not ever recommend memorizing a speech. I do recommend memorizing the opening and the closing and your bullet points. And that's it. Know what you're going to say, know your story, and everybody knows their story, right? But there are some turns of phrases that you really do need to memorize because there's such powerful word combinations. So like I've given 2 speeches this week, and the feedback I got, especially last night, was your vocabulary is amazing and the way you combine words is so interesting. And those are the parts that I memorize because I want to say that line exactly that way every time because I know the impact it has on the audience. The rest of it, I don't care. I can tell this part however the words come out in the moment, and it's going to be fine. But I really do like people to stick the landing and to open powerfully. So I do recommend they memorize those 2 parts.
I always say stick the landing too.
Yeah.
I always use a gymnast kind of thing. So
Yeah.
say at the beginning of the speech, it's kind of like, because, in gymnasts, so I when I was a little kid, Kathy Rigby,
Yeah.
and
I loved her.
are my people. So
Yeah.
young people are like, who are they?
Nadia Comaneci.
Yeah. Oh, I loved her.
Love her.
So when they go, I'm going to lean back so you can see my arm. They would go like this.
Yes.
Your hand to let the judges know they're ready,
Yeah.
and then they would do their exercise, and then at the end they, whew, that's it,
Yeah.
and then they land. And so I said, your beginning of your speech is like raising your hand, like, look at me.
Yes.
I'm now going to give you this, and then you
Uh-huh.
do all your different points of points of interest within the exercise. The things
Yeah.
that you get the points for, and
Yeah.
then you land your ending.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
a really good description of it.
it gives people, I guess, a frame of reference in their mind. So it's interesting that you were talking about how you've worked with people with the idea of memorization. So
Yeah.
some things that I can offer to as well for you to incorporate with what you do, what I do as a master neuroscientist. And then I'm an actress as well. I'm actually in a musical right now. I have a
That's
small part
awesome.
in this musical, but I'm often a lead or whatever in
How
the
fun.
show.
Yeah.
I'm in Something Rotten right now. It's a musical, a funny musical about the Renaissance period and Shakespeare, and very
Aw.
funny show. And but when you're in a show, you have to memorize certain lines, and they have to be a
Yes.
certain way.
Right.
So there is memorization. And what helps when you're as an actress is, for me, it's where I'm going to be and the things that I'm doing when I
Yes.
deliver those lines. So
Yes.
I often share that with people who are speaking, that where you are, the placement of where you are when you do your talk will help you shift to the next point of
Yeah.
reference of memory. So it sounds like you're doing that too. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Especially with the stage geography of storytelling. When you're telling something from the past, you move over to your right because people read a book from left to right, at least, English speakers. And
Mhm.
so when you're on stage, you're a book. Your story is a book. So when you're talking about the past, you move to your right, which is the audience's left, to signal to them that you're in the past. And then when you talk about the future or, the awesome ending that's coming up, you move over to your left, which is the ending of the book. And then the most important points that you want to teach, you stand right in the center of the stage in that, authority spot right in the center. But
Mhm.
yeah, that is a really good way to help remember things. My clients, I have seen, they forget to go over to the left and the right. Or sometimes they get their left and right flipped and they go to the wrong direction when they tell their parts.
Yeah, it's interesting that when you did this, so I
Yeah.
have to also be dyslexic, and dyslexia often falls in play with people who are ADHD. I'm also considered high functioning autistic. So
Oh,
those things parallel each other. So
yeah.
these are both L's. So for people who are looking at this, both of these are an L, and this is an L and this is an L, and they both look like L's no matter which
Yeah,
way. So you have to
exactly.
create a thing for yourself. I was very fortunate. My teacher in first grade, I tell the story a lot. She had red mittens up at the front of the room,
Yeah.
and you put this hand in for left and this hand in for right. Now, notice there is no this. I'm not paying attention
Yeah.
to this at all. I just know that this mitten is the left mitten. So
Yeah.
so I know this. I literally in my head, when I'm driving and I'm telling somebody else directions, picture the mitten on the front of the room, because I know no matter where
Wow.
I'm at, I know no matter what direction I might be, that this is the side, that this hand is the left mitten.
I love that so much. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So for me, I'm visualizing that left mitten, and
Yeah.
so figuring out what side, and as long as you know the one side, you only need to know the one side, because the other
That's
one is
true.
default. It's the other.
Exactly. That's so true.
So if
Just
they
learn
can get
one.
that in their mind, and then it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what this is, it
Yeah.
matters where your fingers are going. So for me, it was how my fingers fit, because my hand, you could put this hand in the mitten, but then you go across your face and you can't.
Yeah. It'd be
So that's
tricky.
how I knew that this is the mitten. That and
That
so
was genius of her.
Yeah, it was super helpful. It's funny because I'm been able to be close with several of my teachers. My one teacher came and saw me. I ran into him at a restaurant a couple of years ago and asked him to come and see me in my plays, and he came and saw me. And I just found out he had passed away in January, and I didn't know it.
Oh, no.
But luckily, he got to see me in my show in October.
Oh, good.
Well, I guess he saw me in in my show last year. And then my third grade teacher, she loves to come to my shows and loves to see me. And it's so amazing. Like, what a cool opportunity to have people who helped you throughout your lifetime be able to
That's
come and
beautiful.
you as an adult.
Amazing.
Yeah. What are some things that you remember from? Actually, I do have. Let me shift for a second before I ask this.
Yeah.
Sifu had called the show From Rock Bottom to Rising Star.
Yeah.
So tell me about that story, because
You're like, wait.
we promised the story and I don't know the story.
Yes. Okay, I will tell the story. I was a graphic designer. I have an art degree, and I had my own graphic design business and also full-time graphic design. So that was my life for 22 years. And when I was pregnant with my son, I had terrible claustrophobia. And I've already had claustrophobia, but when I was pregnant, it got worse and worse and worse because I couldn't breathe. Like his little body just, grew into my lung space. And I was having panic attacks all day, every day. It was really bad. And, they couldn't give me anything because I was pregnant. So they said, just breathe. I wanted to punch them because just breathing was impossible. So it was really hard. And then when he came out, they put me on all the drugs, and they said that it'll only be for a little while and then you'll be fine. Well, I was never fine. I had postpartum, and then it turned into full-on depression. And anytime I would try to go off the meds, I would have panic attacks again. Like they never stopped from when I was pregnant. So I was really depressed on all the medications that you can take, and, too scared to go off of them because the panic attacks. And I eventually became numb. If you're familiar with antidepressants, after a while, they don't really work as effectively. So I was on the max dose, which then turns you into a zombie. So I was just kind of sailing through life as a zombie, I felt like. And my son was 12 when my depression got really, really bad and ended up getting me fired, which I thought then that was basically the nail in my coffin, because I felt completely useless. I was already kind of filled with self-hatred. Then I didn't have a job anymore, so I couldn't contribute to the family. And so I just went home and basically wallowed in my sorrow. And I played video games all day and night and slept all the time when I wasn't on video games, totally ignored my family, and became very withdrawn and was kind of thinking that they would be better off without me. And, that line of thinking is not good, and it just gets worse and worse. So I was kind of planning how I might want to leave the planet, and I got invited to this seminar. I'd never heard of the person doing it, and they said it was a personal development seminar, and I just thought, no, that sounds horrible. I don't want to go sit in a room with a bunch of happy, friendly people. So I turned it down. But I kept having this voice in my head saying, Kelly, you could probably really use some life changing. Maybe you should go to this seminar. So I did eventually change my mind, and I ended up going. And boy, when I walked into that room, the positive energy came out like a literal tidal wave, and I almost turned around and left because it felt so disgusting to me. It was so foreign to me at that point. But I made myself stay, and by the end of the 3 days, I was crying because it was over. I wanted it to just go on forever. I loved it, and I realized that I actually had this pattern of focusing on everything negative in my life, and what you focus on grows. So I had nobody to blame but myself, and I was the only one that could pull myself out of it. So it was actually very, very effective personal development seminar. And after that, I went to another one by another guy, and I loved them both, and they did them every month. So for the next 8 months, I went to 2 different 3-day life-changing seminars.
Nice.
And within a few months, I realized I can't go back to being a graphic designer. That's not going to be enough for me anymore. I want to be the person changing lives from the stage.
Yeah.
Which was insane because I was terrified of public speaking. Like throw up terrified of public speaking. But I discovered, and I think a lot of people on my path have also discovered, that the desire to change lives eventually grows big enough that there's no room left for the stage fright, and it goes away because there's nothing left for it to grab onto, because you're just so excited to get on stage and help people. The fear of public speaking shrivels away and disappears. Now, I do still get a little nervous before going on stage, and I've been speaking since 2017. I still get nervous. That part has never gone away, but I don't want to throw up and run away anymore.
Well, good. I can reference that. So as a master neuroscientist, there are tools that, we can utilize to help people release fear of stage and fear of going on. And at the same time, I want to remind people that it's okay to have a little bit of before you get on. That's your body just making sure that you've got in check. Do I have what I need? And my dress, is my zipper up? Did I remember to put my pants on? Do I know the speech? What city am I in? Who are the people that I'm talking to? I have to admit that because I have released the fear of being on stage, I have no fear of being on stage whatsoever. And sometimes it is awesome, and it also can be a detriment because I have no fear, I also don't always do the checklist of things. And then you get on stage and there's something that you didn't have or whatever. No, I just accommodate or I say, oh, I need to get this, and I go get it. However, so I now have to put in check that, I need to check these things off in my head to go over them. And so people who have that little bit of I need to pay attention, just as long as it doesn't disable them.
Yes.
It's just your body being, taking precautions to be thinking ahead. And that can be a normal thing. But you're right. It's when it causes you, the fear is so much that you, are sick, or you can't go on, or you think you're going to leave the stage. That's the point of problem. That's not okay. But just sort of like, but you can also release that too. I'm happy that I have no fear whatsoever. I know that it'll work out. I know that if I forget my line, we'll figure it out. I'll come up with another line, or somebody will help me. It just always works out. We'll figure it out.
Yes. I am a firm believer that everything is for us in some way. Either if we like it, it's for our happiness. If we don't like it, it's happening for our growth. But everything happens for us, not to us. So yes, everything will always work out. And I believe if you have that belief, then really nothing can ever throw you off.
Absolutely. Having a really positive mindset to be able to get through the world and just trust that anything that ever has happened, even if something terribly traumatic has happened,
absolutely,
you're still here. You got through it. Somehow you figured it out.
Yeah. And then what did you learn from it? Go journal about it, right?
Yeah. Write it down.
What's your takeaway?
So we are almost out of time. See, I told you it would go fast and furious.
It went so fast.
I know. It's because you're a fun person. So how could people not have a good short time with, like, boom, it's done. So tell us about how people can reach you. I'd love to know what area of the country that you're from, and tell us a little bit more about your packages and services.
Yeah. I live in Utah. I'm born in Dallas. And then when I was 6, moved to Kansas and lived there till I got married and moved here. But now I've lived here longest, so I guess I'm a Utahn now, out here in the desert. I have a podcast and I have a speaking website. So people can go to either one, whichever one they're more excited about. The podcast website is The Kelly Effect. And my speaking website is kellykaywalker.com. So come visit the one you're more interested in. I have probably my favorite speaker coaching package that I do is a speaking cruise. So you can get the speaking cruise a la carte, or you can buy a coaching package that includes the speaking cruise. And I got addicted to cruises in like the last 20 years. And I realized I had to do a cruise every year or I would never be happy again.
Well, they are certainly lovely. And I have one on every year for the last 15. So there you
That's
go.
awesome.
Yeah,
See?
tell us what your website is again.
KellyKayeWalker.com.
Okay.
And K is spelled Kaye. That's my middle name. It's got an E on the end, which is weird.
Got it.
Or the KellyEffect.com, which is the podcast website.
And that's effect or affect?
E.
Okay.
E.
And that's one of my dyslexia things. I'm like, I got to make sure because
Oh,
I
yeah.
always spell that one way or the other. All right, got it done.
Yeah, that's a hard word.
Got it up there. Well, thank you for sharing that. That sounds funny. When's your next cruise?
My next cruise is February 27th, and it is February 22nd, and it is an AI for speakers with ADHD cruise.
Cool. That sounds lovely and fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm
You're so
Dr.
welcome.
Andrea Adams-Miller. I own the redcarpetconnection.com. I'm the CEO and founder of that. Been in business. I've been a speaker since I was 16. So that
Wow.
I'm 56. So you do the math. And
40 years.
Yeah, thank you. And what I do is I work with elite entrepreneurs that are moving and shaking. And I also have, that's for one-on-one coaching. I help them strategize their businesses by actually not staying in my lane, by looking across multiple lanes to make sure that all of the lanes are going in the same forward motion of traffic. And
Nice.
and then I do that through business development, business consulting, strategically looking at how things are done with money and finances and contracts and partnerships, and also publicity, as well as social media. So we look at a wide range of things and do events and retreats. And then I also have the Wealth and Legacy Alliance. That is a mastermind that meets several times a year. And there's also a community that goes with that. And so you can be in the community without attending the masterminds. But most people want to be together in person as well. So there's options, but it's so that high level movers and shakers can be together to think and function and manage so that they can take action to live a life full of wealth and legacy. So that's what I do. And I'm so glad everybody was here. And this is Business Prowess with Sifu Rafael Gomez and Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller. And I do want to share, I just realized I forgot to share his fun little, he's got something cool coming up. So let me show that really quick.
Turn it up, let's go. Turn it up, let's go. Let's go. No time to wait. Bass too loud and the vibe too great. Let's go. Full on fire. Every move hit like a live wire. Let's go. Stepping bold. No fear here, just hard to go. Let's go. Lights on blast. We don't hold back. We move fast. Hit the flow, we don't miss. Whole room lit like a first kiss. No cap, no stress, no chill. Just truth, emotion, and will. This is how we speak in steps. No script, just step. Every beat we turn it up and leave that silence in the dust. Let's go. No time to wait.
And thank you so much all for being with us. And we will catch you next Friday. Bye. It's not ending. And apparently it needs to play the outro again to end. That